Welcome to Fargo Talks Fargo, an unofficial podcast on the FX television show. Fargo Talks Fargo is hosted by me, Bill Lempe, and my buddy Sharpie. Sponsors for this season of Fargo Talks Fargo are TAG, celebrating Fargo and the Midwest community through t-shirts, art, and graphics. For more information, visit tagfargo.com. And Fargo Brewing Company's Wood Chipper India Pale Ale with its bold hop flavor and velvety body. Grab a pint or visit them online at fargobrewing.com. All right, so here we are. Episode 3 has aired. We put out the hot dish last night. I didn't get any sleep thanks to you, Sharpie. You giant douche canoe.
Hey, now.
And I don't even know what to do. And now this week we are joined by Kris Kerzman, who works at the Arts Partnership here in town. Hello, Kris.
Howdy. Hey, guys.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Kris is also just a good old man about town and here in downtown Fargo, so got to have him on the show.
Hey, thanks
and
again for having me.
You're also working with, you guys are doing some live tweeting of the show, correct?
Yeah. So at the Arts Partnership, I write the Arts Pulse blog, which is arts and culture blog for the Fargo-Moorhead area. And we do some work with the forum. And when this all started going down, we partnered up with the forum to do some episode recaps and to do some live tweeting and stuff like that. I participated on the premiere night with some of the live tweeting, and I'll be doing some episode recaps down the line.
Sweet.
But for the most part right now, we're going through a big kitchen renovation right now. So I'm thinking about tile floors and stuff a lot more than I probably should be. But
what if they're wrong and you're right, Kris?
That's in the show.
Oh God. So,
where should we head if somebody's looking to get those live tweets? Where can they check that out at?
They can actually go to the forum. Started a dedicated blog called Fargo and Fargo, and you can find it at fargo.areavoices.com.
There you
Cool.
go, folks.
There they are.
And
Check
the
that out
forum
some
is
more.
our local newspaper.
Our
for
local,
those that don't know.
yeah.
So more information from locals. Obviously, they do it a lot faster than we do because we talk for a long time. So.
Heidi and John Lamb wore plaid shirts today
Nice.
for their video recap for this episode.
And it snows all the time in theirs.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
doing some great video recaps. Check
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah.
And we might have John back again too. I know we've talked about doing that. So Sharpie, where I don't even know where to start after the hot dish. And if you didn't hear the hot dish, we're not going to skip right to that, but it involves the ice scraper and me having a holy shit moment. And then I stayed up till almost 5 a.m. trying to read more and try to find out if there are more people uncovering this idea. I haven't found a ton, but we'll come to that. So
I think
what do you
that
want
it's fairly obvious, but we'll get to it later.
I'm also I was briefed on this before I came on.
Oh, you got our white paper?
I got your white paper. I got your synopsis. I got the one pager. I got. And I'm really surprised at what corners of human thought and intelligence you guys are going for. And what you're heading toward here. It's pretty interesting.
It's heavy duty. So
Are you ready, Kris? I mean, you better be prepared for this.
I'm prepared, and like I said, this is I'm actually really excited to sort of dig into stuff like this. I was a big fan of Lost. I'm a big fan of symbols and semiotics.
like Zildjian or
I'm more of a pasty man, but
okay. Drum nerds unite.
Badoomch, that's the rim shot, right, for the jokes. I think it was kind of creeping out at me from the get-go with this show that there was a lot of emphasis on symbols, on these sort of encapsulated ideas that have run a lot deeper. I could maybe talk a little bit about de Saussure and sign theory and stuff like that. But I think you're kind of hitting on that already.
Yeah, we're getting there.
You're getting there.
So where do you want to start, Sharpie? I mean, you put some work into some show rundown stuff here, and I feel like we need to just walk through the episodes like we normally do and try to stay as close to on track as is possible with two people who need Adderall themselves, me and Sharpie.
Yeah, I mean, I think we start from the beginning. We've got some ideas. We've got some theories. I've got a wood chipper. I'm ready to rock.
You guys were talking about lines from the third episode. Pretend I'm a 300-pound 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Pretend I'm a 300-pound 9-year-old who can't finish a sentence.
Exactly. So I don't know. I was happy to finally find out just a little bit more about Mr. Frozen and his panties.
Yeah, we've got just a little tidbit into that story. Not the full thing, but you just like to say panties, I think.
I do like saying panties. Well, because they called him panties a bunch in the first few episodes, so
we got a little more insight into that. Still don't have the full story. It's kind of interesting how they keep going back and forth with that, or not really back. Well, yeah, back and forth. I'm curious to see as to where, because obviously that's going to lead up somehow into the overarching story, or else it's just like a background to show Lauren's malice. But it will be interesting to see those sort of little vignettes like peek their way throughout the season and see if that really ties into the bigger picture, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I do think the part that I noticed right away was this, like, Lauren has been somewhat calculated in all the things we've seen him do since crashing into the deer. You know, he didn't just like walk straight through the strip club, the Lucky Penny, and just like in front of people just hammer a guy in the head with a knife. And he also, I'll skip ahead shortly just for a second. He sneaks into Stavros Milos' house. But this one, man, he just walks into the office. The guy obviously knows something's going on because he's got his panties in a bunch,
sweating bullets at that point.
Yeah, and there's the fish tank by the way.
Him, there's a fish,
more fish, but he's like ballsy. He just drags him out in front of coworkers and through cameras, and it just seems like a slightly different Lauren than we've seen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? There's no hiding my face. I'm just like, I'm gonna drag you out by the necktie, MF.
Well, and I know
that's pretty typical.
I know it's kind of a comparison that's been made too, between Lauren Malvo and Anton Chigurh. These sort of angel of death type of evil incarnate types who they're so unilaterally set into their own agenda that they do things like walk into, and I'm assuming it was in the middle of the day when that scene first started. I was like, oh, he's working late and there's no one else in the office. Well, then all of a sudden the one woman,
the lady sticks her head out.
Yeah.
You're like
yeah, that was really surprising because it seems like he's working late because the lights in the office are like dim or down or something.
Yeah.
You really don't expect 3 or 4 ladies to poke their heads out of the cube and then not do anything.
They're all just
nobody's
like,
rushing to a phone to call authorities or security or anything like that.
Well, just Midwesterners minding their own business, evidently.
Well, and again reinforces this idea that Lauren Malvo there's almost something supernatural about him, that he sort of repels definition.
Yeah.
That he has this sort of bubble, or he has this sort of Teflon thing to his being where he can sort of slip in and out of situations. And like the scene where he puts the Adderall pills in the bottle, that whole time I'm like, oh, he's gonna get caught, or he's gonna have to make something. He never has to.
There's no sense of urgency either.
No, he's like, I know, it's like a foreknowledge, or this idea that the purity of my agenda will prevail at this point. But
right.
It's there's a lot of I'm gonna set the table for you. There's a lot of he almost is a mythological creature.
A little bit.
Almost.
And so we finally get to see how he ends up frozen. And he owed somebody money, and he's working in accounting firm. So, of course, I was like, who's he stealing from? And we also, is this the first time we've gotten a date on the actual kickoff? Because I can't remember where it was. I saw somewhere in the opening that it was 1/18/2006.
Yes, January 18th was the security footage.
Yeah, that's what it was. Sorry, thank you.
Of when the guy was kidnapped.
So,
yeah, and that's interesting, Chris, because there are theories out there that I've been reading, and we can get to this in a little bit, that he is actually a supernatural character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we open with that, and then we eventually, in true form, super serious, And let's lighten it up for a minute. And Lauren visits
Chumph
at Squat.
The Midwestern curves.
And they just go straight to it right after the you got bronzer on your note. And that's the other thing. So he's standing in front of a class of people and he's showing them a ransom note. Like, hey, look here, fuckstick. I have duh. And then he goes into a room and then he says, you couldn't find a smaller room for us to talk in? And they're just in there having a conversation, which is awesome. And
we should hear a little bit of that.
We should, yeah. I'll have to dig that one up here. Hold on.
That is a great conversation. Like, he just panics, and immediately the first room he goes into, and I mean, it's probably like in a strip mall somewhere, so with probably shared bathrooms as well. So he just dives into like a janitorial closet.
The other thing both Sharpie and I noticed is that here, I'm showing this to Chris in the clip. It's like it says Lebouef miscellaneous, and I want to know if
that was weird.
Is somebody trying to make fun of Shia? Do you think?
Is that his box of miscellaneous
things that he's ripping off from somebody else?
Yeah, if you go back and watch that scene, you'll notice in the background in the closet there's Lebouef miscellaneous written on a box, right to the right of Chumph's head.
Squat. I never noticed the name of the place.
It's called Squat,
and its logo.
It's so special. It's not even funny. So here, I'll just pick a spot here and play.
Listen. I swear on my...
You couldn't find a smaller room for us to talk in?
What?
It's nothing.
This
He's
whole
unaware
thing,
how small the room is.
Huge mistake. Okay, I never meant... See, I just wanted something for Don. You know?
You done? Here it is. You're screwed. You made a choice, and this is the consequence. Me, I'm the consequence.
Please don't tell Helena.
I don't work for Helena. I work for her husband, Stavros Milos, the supermarket king.
Oh, my God.
This is the part I think is hilarious.
This is the
He hands him an exercise ball. So yeah, so they're in there. Squeeze this. That's like, I don't know why I love that kind of stuff. So they hatch their own plan, right?
So this is where Lauren sort of, and I don't know if he had this in mind from the beginning, like from the time he was told to go to Duluth, but
you mean to somehow find money?
Yeah.
No, I think I don't know. I think it's. I think
this
when
is just
he gets
starting
to
to hatch.
I think when he gets to the bottom of the random number, and he says, "Why that much?" And he's like, "Well, I want to open a Turkish bath." I think he realizes there's a lot more money to be had, and he knew something else was up because that's a very specific number, and so because he asks for 43,000. Is it 43,613 or 40,613? 43?
I think it's $43,613.
So, and please note those last three digits because we're going to talk about that 613.
4,815, 16, 32.
So I don't know. And there's also the great line also that I didn't play that he says, "I'm confused," and Lauren's like, "That's okay, I'm not."
Yeah, that's my favorite line of the whole episode.
You know who's in charge.
So
he's in charge.
So Lauren's still on a mission, and we only get to. He only lets us in on they're letting us in on tiny pieces every night, showing us more and more of what's happening and whatnot.
Yeah. So then we move into Gus Grimley.
Yeah,
and he's sort of starting to ponder that evening back in Duluth, and he just happens to look up.
It's the flashback plates. Episode, by the way. Did you notice there was 3 different flashbacks basically in this episode?
There were a few flashbacks. But weren't they all from Gus?
No. Well, technically the first one was a flashback of what happened to Frozen Panties. That's a flashback.
Oh, yeah. I suppose that is a flashback.
And then we've got Gus having his flashback of the night he let Malvo off the hook. And then eventually we've got Lester Nygaard having some flashback action in his kitchen.
They pretty much replay that entire scene, that entire first scene between him and his wife in flashback, which is just cringy.
Ugh.
So cringy.
But at the same time, every time I hear how rude she is to him, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, you act like that, you're gonna get hit in the head with a hammer.
Maybe they're wrong and you're right.
Vigilante
I'm
justice.
surprised it wasn't like a hockey stick or something.
Yeah.
Or a
I
casserole.
I think they saved that for the comic relief, the two kids, the two Hess boys.
True.
This
Those
was
guys.
also this scene with Gus though back in Duluth was also a scene where I kind of thought just a small amount. Now it's not a huge point, but that Gus and Lester actually have a few things in common. That they just get walked on by people around them. You know, like when he goes in to tell his chief or whatever that he let somebody go that was probably involved in a murder, and he's like, he used the phrase dipshittery, which I loved.
Yeah, that was
but
nice.
he just becomes kind of a pile and a stuttering mess, which is the same thing that happens to Lester when people start trying to push him around or tell him what's what, and he's just they just nobody hears those guys either, but they're kind of the light and dark side of that for me. Whereas Lester's like secretly wants to.
Lester doesn't find anybody to sort of commiserate with, though.
No, he doesn't.
And I think Colin Hanks's character is going to find there's obviously a connection there, and I don't know if they're playing that up for a possible romantic thing, but at least
there's got to be some love past the stripper. Oh yeah.
At the very least, though, I mean, she totally gets it once his daughter comes in. And the way she asks the question, like, so is mom at home then? She doesn't say, like, oh, tell me about your wife or tell me about...
Right.
She says, so is mom at home then? Meaning, like, hey, you just dragged your daughter from Duluth to Bemidji, which is what? About a 2-hour drive? Maybe?
They make it in...
It's got to be at least 2
They
hours.
make it what apparently seems to be like some daytime easyness. And I can tell you that driving from Duluth to Bemidji sucks way more than that.
It ain't no fun. Did you guys catch little tangent here? Did you catch the? I watched with closed captioning.
Rat hole. Let's go.
Let's do it.
The ad that's on the radio when she is first. Let's see.
When she's driving to visit her friend.
Yeah, she's driving to visit. She's driving. Yeah,
I didn't hear the ad. I guess
it's something
I knew it was
about 2 days and 3 nights, all expenses paid in Bismarck. And I was like,
that's what people were talking about.
Bismarck.
They were
who was driving from Bismarck to Bemidji anyway? But
Bismarck is a beautiful place.
it's a wonderful, wonderful place.
Hey, they
full
got
of
the
wonderful
Seven
people.
Seas Motel there.
They do, home of Essie's, right?
Home of Essie's, South American sauce.
South American sauce. By the way, that's no joke. That stuff's awesome.
The South American sauce that's from the center of North America.
So yeah, we'll gloss over a few things here because I still really want to just get to the meat of this. So yeah, Lester's got a pellet in his hand. He hates it, and he's having flashbacks. We get into the Bo Monk agency, and somehow through a few series of events, Lester gets sent to Gina Hess's Gina Hess house. It's like Jesus's. I don't know how to do that. Either way, he goes to Gina's house and needs her to sign some paperwork. And there's some pretty interesting behavior happening there that I'm still waiting to see the rest of that hatch. She seems so desperate for money, which I don't understand to a certain degree because even prior to his death,
They're pretty well off.
they seem pretty well off. But
pretty fine,
is there something behind it that somebody's jacked up the books or stolen money, or I don't know because
She might be in a sticky situation and need a lift out.
maybe. But the thing is, I keep trying to remind myself too that the only reason Lorne Malvo is in town is by pure chance because he hit a deer. That's the only reason he's there. So he couldn't have known of anything. But I'm going to go on record. I early on said I was a little worried about Kate Walsh. For the small amount of scenes she's been in, I think she has dug herself out of the private practice hole for me.
Yeah,
I'm okay
totally.
with it because she's really subtle, but just has that vibe to her that I kind of dig. Plus, she's a ginger. I feel
So
for
now
that.
you're into her. Now that she starts putting on the moves and opening up the robe.
I like a lady who can open the kimono. And I had Matt check it out because I feel like there's small things afoot here that we're trying to pick up on, and overanalyze sometimes. I think Matt and I lose some sleep here and there thinking about
That's
things
me.
that just didn't happen, right? But I called Matt today on the way to dinner somewhere, and I said, you got to look up this song. I know it's one of these things, and he singled it out, and I said, it's one of these three guys, and he goes, yeah, you're right. It was John Lee Hooker, and it's Crawlin' Kingsnake is playing in the background. I don't know. There's something in that song about not messing around and using somebody for yourself. And if you read the actual lyrics way towards the end, there's also a mention of spider, which
there were
how many times have spiders come up in the show?
Spiders all over. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Spiders
Were you
everywhere.
able to read anything into the? Because it's a weird spot because they don't just play. I don't think the show creator is just randomly like, let's put some music in here, Grey's Anatomy style, to make people feel something.
Yeah.
I think they would listen. I think they'd be listening to "Crawling King Snake."
Well, that's
By John Lee Hooker.
She's really into old like late 1940s blues.
Yeah. And it's so funny because watching that scene, and again, like you guys need to get out of my brain because watching that scene, that song seems incongruous to the point of like it was really trying to stand out, right? Like,
but at the same time, it was so low that I literally was having a moment. I was like, "Is that Robert?" When I watched it, I was like, "Is that Robert Johnson?" I'm like, "No, he doesn't have that."
It actually, when you watch with closed captioning on, as I did, I knew the name of that song and the performance right away. Incidentally,
That's brilliant.
when you
Why
watch
didn't
with
we do
closed,
that?
when you watch with closed captioning on, you also find out
The lyrics.
well, I don't think there were
Oh,
any
the
lyrics.
sign language.
No, actually, there's no. They don't do the sign language, which would be interesting to get some ASL.
Oh, we've got that.
Oh, good.
We're
Good,
on
good,
that
good.
for this show. We'll tell people about a link and.
But the how many times the bracketed phrase "melancholy orchestration" appears?
Oh, for the scene where what do they do
for
for
all the scenes when the score
like
comes
the theme
out?
song.
And I can't remember who. I'd have to look at credits to see who does the score, but it's a very well done score.
I love how minimal it is.
Well, it's minimal,
score
but at
is
the same
great.
time, like it has some kind of Lawrence of Arabia type of flourishes. That's sort of maybe it's irony because it's like big grandiose flourishes over this blowing cold white landscape kind of a thing. But to me, it's if I were scoring something like that, I'd probably use like little minimal type of bleepy bloopy type of. These are these big.
It
type
grows.
of
It's
washes of orchestration that sort of say like, no, we want to go for something like, we want it to sound like big and grand.
Yeah.
you know?
Plus that constant cue of the percussive that they play. Kind of, it's like they're like saying, "Hey, listen up." Also, speaking of great quotes, I've taken shits I want to live with more than them.
He shoots his brother in the ass,
Yes.
and then she looks out the window and she goes, "Oh, not again."
Not again. So great. God, those kids. You know what? I don't think anyone is going to murder those kids. I think they're going to somehow like simultaneously fall off ladders together, looking in a window of some girl taking off her shirt like Animal House style, and they're just going to fall and impale themselves on their own stupidity or something. I don't know.
Actually, they'll probably end up coming out smelling like roses. They're just going to go pratfall after pratfall over these 10 episodes.
They're just going to get
And
Chevy
then at the
Chase
end-
from here on out.
And they're just going to be they're just going to be doing their Gerald Ford impression.
Yes. Somebody's going to get their hand stuck in the Bassomatic.
Who's that going to be?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's going to be Are they twins?
That'll
No,
be the next
they're not.
hashtag.
They're not.
There's
Oh,
an
you mean-
older and a younger.
Yeah, they're older and
Yeah.
younger, and I keep thinking, what did they let her in? Like, how would either of those dolts remember a play in any sport? Maybe the older one, but the other one, I don't know. What are they just like? He's got to be the water boy. Okay, so did you have anything you want to add to the Gina Hess and Lester situation? Where I feel like she's feeling a weird kindred spirit to him. Like, hey, your wife's dead, my husband's dead, and
you're part of the insurance company that's going to get me all my money.
And I need you.
I might have kind of missed this part, but what was his motivation? Because I know you remember the scene where he goes back and he's at work and he's I got to run some paperwork out to the Hesses. What was Lester's motivation to go out there?
Because Bo told him to. Because
that was it.
He was
So he
looking
didn't,
for
like-
something to do, and Bo had. I got some dentist stuff. Is what he says, or something like that.
like when they're going out for Arby's.
Hats. Oh yeah, I have that in my little notes to talk about later. But that's when he's in the bathroom. He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna get some Arby's. You want some?" Oh God, back to the Arby's. So many things, and I don't think these are cheap tiebacks. I think they're great things to play off that same universe and same culture that they've kind of bred into this show. And I'm for the most part over. I still see a lot of people complaining about Bemidji's not like that. So and so place is not like that. We don't. I'm like, fucking just chill out. There's a better story going on here. Once you get past it, the same way not all Spanish culture is a novella. There's all sorts of stuff. It's just
right.
You're missing out. You need to be.
And not every Italian is a mobster.
No. Oh, hey, come on, it's Mario. So Malvo, and then we get to Malvo buying the pills off the guy. He goes to get the Adderall, which, by the way, just gonna point out my license plate freak out again. License plate Q35I2471.
You are just hung up on that license plate.
I can't wait till this season is over and it doesn't amount to a hill of shit, but I don't care. It's my ADD.
I hope it does.
I have to track all these numbers, and I'm waiting at some point to get my Fargo Lorne Malvo decoder ring. And
what if they're wrong and you're right, Bill?
Yes.
And what if that fish in the poster is actually, wait for it, a red herring?
Oh.
Mind blown.
Boom.
Anyway.
Not quite.
All right. Next week.
Anyway.
And Molly meets her friend, which is the tie back to Yamaguchi, or what was his name, Sharpie?
Mike Yamagita.
Mike Yamagita.
Oh my God.
Very similar thing. Same kind of restaurant, buffet style thing. But what's with the spiders?
Yeah, that was a weird little tiny tangent there. It made me uncomfortable, and I think that was its only goal.
Well, what was the purpose of that scene? So what would be the purpose of that scene other than to introduce... Because, I mean, I don't think that really moved along the plot at all. I
agree. I don't think it did either.
You think of okay, so the scene in the movie where she meets Mike also doesn't really have anything to do with the main plot of the movie, Fargo,
no, but
either.
You know what that does? That is the point in the movie at which Marge realizes she finds out Yamaguchi?
Mike Yanagita.
Jesus, why can't I? Christy Yamaguchi. Oh God,
I don't even know if that's right. I think it's
It is right. Sorry,
there's a Stephen Colbert joke in there somewhere.
I know. That's the point. Marge in the movie in 1996 realizes when she finds out his wife's not dead. He lives, whatever. That's the point where she realizes, oh shit, good people lie. People you think are good lie, and then she goes back to now I've got Lester
Lundegaard.
She goes back to Jerry Lundegaard and says, "All right, let's." You're sure you're not missing a car? That was the scene that just makes her realize I don't trust these people in this town.
Mm-hmm. So the Mike Yanagita character was actually incredibly pivotal in the plot or in Marge's direction.
But I
retract my earlier statement.
I'm yet to understand, though. I still agree with you that I don't understand outside of bringing up spiders and uncomfortable, strange sex talk. I don't understand that scene.
I don't think we're meant to understand it quite yet. I mean, it did introduce Molly talking. She did mention a muddy road.
Yep. So that was the scene in which they did talk about that, which is the show title.
Which is the show title. Yep. So she did say that while they were there. I have a feeling that it wasn't just thrown in there for nothing.
No.
There'll be some tie back eventually, and we'll be like,
Noah Hawley's not.
Oh, it's the spiders in the neck thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this isn't Noah Hawley's version of the music montage where there's no dialogue and they're just filling about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think this is a great time before we get into the thick of the last part here that I think is... Yeah. So
big.
We're going to take a quick sponsor break here because we have 2 sponsors for this show that are helping us out this year, make this thing happen. And our first sponsor we're going to talk about this week is TAG. That's TAG, TAG. And TAG celebrates, the TAG celebrates the True Fargo community with True Fargo swag. They've got like T-shirts that are created by local people. They're printed in the area, and there's Fargo theater shirts. There's ones with buffalo on them. There's ones that say, I'd frack that. There's all sorts of like fun Midwestern humor that is happening. And they're available to purchase online anytime, North Dakota, where the beer is always cold. So you need to go to tagfargo.com. That's tagfargo.com. And you got to check out some merchandise there and buy them. Do you know why? Here's why you need to go. Because now on this show, any order you make now, you can get 15% off your order. If you put in you put in the promo code Fargo, and we didn't actually get an answer pre-show if it was uppercase or lowercase, all uppercase, all lowercase. So if one doesn't work, try the other one.
Yeah, that's
And
all.
we think
shipping
five
is,
letters, guys.
Shipping is mostly to the United States and Canada, but if not, check it out and get in contact with them. But you should do it. Hey, 15% off a shirt.
I would take advantage of that. There's stuff at Tag I'd buy.
There's
like
tons
t-shirts.
of stuff there. So, and they've got new stuff coming in and new colors for spring that are happening. So you need to head over to tagfargo.com, enter the promo code Fargo, and get yourself some swag. Done. All right, Sharpie.
Boom.
Kick this thing off. So we're gonna head back to Stavros Milos and my holy shit moment from last night with you.
Well, we're just going to skip by the Muddy Road thing, or we're going to come back to
Oh, do you want to
later?
talk about the Muddy? Yeah, talk about the Muddy Road.
Well, the episode is titled The Muddy Road. A Muddy Road.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for covering that.
Did you know that?
I did know that.
Well, I just wanted to touch on it a little bit because, it's the episode title.
That
But-
shit doesn't mean anything.
Titles.
And we've got this sort of continuing theme of the episode titles being short stories or parables with a message. So
That
yet
they are.
again, we have another one, A Muddy Road. And Bill, you dug up a bunch of stuff on this that was kind of interesting, and we sort of had a couple different angles on it. We'll see which. I mean,
It's all part of the
nothing's really
same.
like
It's all
black
part
and
of the
white
same
here.
parable. I mean, really.
Yeah,
I mean, do you want to tell it or do you want me to tell it?
I think you should tell.
So the one that I came across comes from Zen Buddhism, and there's two monks walking down the road, and it's raining and it's been muddy, a muddy road. And
Boom.
the two monks come upon a young, beautiful woman in a silk kimono, and the one monk just walks up and says, "Come here," and he picks her up and he carries her across the road, puts her down, and then they continue on to the next night, to later that night, to their place of stay for the evening. And when they get there, the other monk says, "Hey, what was up with that? We're monks. We really shouldn't be involved with young, beautiful women like that. And why did you do that?" And the other monk, the wise one, says, "Well, I left her behind. Obviously you haven't." And that's the story of he's doing the right thing, where the other guy's hung up on the dogma or the whatever you want to call it of what they should and shouldn't do, the proper way to interact with people or situations.
So in that scenario, who is hung up?
I'm confused about that, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, based on what I read, the one hung up is the guy who's very strict on his religious beliefs, and he cannot go over and help the woman because they're not supposed to be interacting with that kind. Even though they're supposed to be, good, wholesome people, they're monks. They're not supposed to, engage with these young, attractive women. And so he puts his head down and has to keep going, where the other guy is just like, she needs some help, dude.
Yeah.
What's the big deal? Let's just... He just saw a situation for more of what it is, just do the right thing, help out, move on, and continue going about your business, whereas the other guy was more hung up just because of his religious beliefs. So in the parable that I was reading, basically they said it obliges you to see the situation as it is instead of letting your religious or personal views blind you. So that's sort of the takeaway. And how that relates, there's a couple different theories, I guess, and we'll probably never know what it's directly referring to. There's Gus Grimley, and the cop, and he went back to the crocodile's dilemma. He does
the right thing,
which tied in really nicely with Gus Grimley.
Yeah, skipping ahead, right? Because he does the right thing.
Yeah, he. Well, now that you mention that, so he kind of fulfills that role of the I guess not necessarily the antagonist. Maybe looking at it from sort of the 30,000 foot view is the idea that we don't know the severity or the overall. How do I want to say? We don't really know the consequences of our actions in the near term or we might know them in the long term. So
Yeah,
this sort of idea that the consequences of our decisions are different in the short term and the near term. So maybe there's not a direct correlation between the people in that, but this idea that, yeah, Gus knows he screwed up. Well, he fucked up, and he knows that. But at the same time, he's also, we don't know. That decision that he made, yeah, it set off this chain of very bad things happening. But at the same time, like there's still that sense that I think he gets from the Bemidji deputy that you know what, like that sucks, but you know what, she's more concerned on getting the guy. Like, we're gonna get Lorne Malvo, and again, like she also understands from that one scene where Grimley's daughter walks in, that she knows it's far more complex than just you let the guy go. She doesn't see it in black and white. And so she sees, okay, so I know what happened. You know, like, he threatened you. And, she could probably hear the whole thing play out sort of in her head, right? Like, okay, he got under your skin. He knew about your daughter. He knew you were vulnerable somehow, and he used that to his advantage. I know how that could happen. Hey, that's all right. Don't worry about it. So she would actually end up being sort of the the one who sees the consequence of actions in the long term, not just the short term. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's pretty good.
Maybe?
That's not bad, Chris.
I don't know. Hey. I could Fargo talks Fargo.
Boom.
To use the name of the show as a verb.
Yeah. That's our goal, is to get verby.
I can totally Fargo talks Fargo.
So Lauren sneaks in. Well, I guess... So here's the deal. We're about to get into a section of the show where we get really slightly religious theology chatty, conspiracy chatty, and...
Which should be good for you as long as you pay attention in college. Am I right or am I right? Am I right or am I right?
I did.
You weren't smoking all them doobies and stuff before class, were you?
No, I tried to...
Little known fact about Bill
that till
Lempe.
later. I did major in religious theology for a little while, which is crazy.
Hey, I didn't know that. I did not know that. How long have I known you, Bill? I've studied.
We met downstairs about 10 minutes ago.
Oh,
Chris
that's right. You pulled me off the street.
Yeah, I saw this guy walking around with shorts, and I was like, Kevin Smith,
hey, Kevin
is that
Smith.
you?
Is it Kevin? You guys,
Sorry,
okay?
folks.
Fun tangent.
Rat hole number 2. Go.
My wife's grandmother bought me a copy of Tough Shit, Kevin Smith's book about basically how he wants to quit doing movies and how Bruce Willis is an asshole, and how all he wants to do is do podcasts for the rest of his life. And the reason she bought me the book is she's like, oh, I thought the guy on the cover looked like you.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at it and I was like, fuck, he does. Damn it. So I am sort of a Kevin Smith doppelganger.
It's okay.
Anyway,
I have to state for the record that you are much more slender than Kevin Smith.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
and
I've never been kicked off a plane for
you also don't
fat.
own a fleshlight, I assume.
I'm not going to admit to it.
And okay, we'll just stay away from that.
And we're out of the rat hole.
Anyway, okay, so we cut back to Stavros Milos' place, and there's good old King on the couch keeping his eye on
Stavros Milos.
Stavros Milos, the sausage king, the supermarket king of Duluth, right? He's in Duluth. Now I'm starting to mix up my
Midwest.
Upper Midwest.
Yeah, he's going to open up stores in the Dakotas.
Yes, he's going to do it. But
Wisconsin.
I think as we get into some things, and I did not have time. This literally came to me as I was letting Chris into the building. I've still been thinking about the deer a little bit. Why Lauren put it in the trunk, and there's also, so we opened to this scene of the dog. Oh God, I'm having so many crazy thoughts right now. So sorry, people. I'm having the dog is like watching this deer, but the dog isn't like wicked freaking out. Like some dogs would do at the window. They'd bark and they'd go running, but this dog's, King just has his interest piqued, and he kind of just like runs outside. He's like, oh, deer. Well, the deer is also shows up in a lot of Christian and actually in some Islamic theology as well, as I'm staring at a page on the thing. I was trying to find the thing, and I apologize to my religious theology professor from my sophomore year, Roy Hammerling. I know we had an entire chat about the deer, but there are parts where the deer and the stag appear to people as messages of God and or Christ throughout the thing.
Was that not a part of the Queen, Helen Mirren as the Queen? Doesn't she see a stag?
Yeah, I think you might be right.
And I think that might have been okay. Continue.
But there's also some people who've lived out with their sole companion being a deer, and then there's this whole analogy of the deer drinking water. And okay, so whatever. Google this stuff, you'll figure it out. But so it's there. So I have this thing where I'm like, the deer is a symbol of something, and the reason the king, the dog, isn't freaking out about the deer, it's because it's some sort of they're having their own moment. And I also am now having a crazy moment where I'm like, I've never said this to either of you, and it sounds even more crazy as I'm about to say it.
Oh, God.
I'm not going to look any in the eye while you say it.
Is Lauren Malvo a deer? Okay, there, I said it. He sees the deer, he runs outside, and then all of a sudden, boom, King's dead. So sorry. Anyway,
that was it.
He's a
shapeshifter. He's a shapeshifter.
We're gonna get.
He was recently just shapeshifted into a deer to get out of Lester's basement. He shapeshifted into a spider. Crawled out a crack.
Oh my gosh.
He was probably shapeshifting into the screensaver of that guy in the accounting firm. He was shapeshifted into. He's
a red herring.
Literally pixelated fish.
Yes. Okay. So whatever.
Or he shapeshifted into the poster, and he was the fish.
Yes.
In the poster.
So Lauren sneaks in.
You're just brushing by this.
I am brushing by because we gotta get to the meaty part, and we can't have this be 2 hours long.
That's what she said.
So, hey now. And so anyway,
wood chippers are kicking in.
The dog is king, and etc. So pills are good, and he's messing with Stavros. And we talked about this last night on the hot dish, that evidently in films and TV shows, anyone who's got a major pill problem has to chew them. Maybe I'm not a pill addict, and maybe I should be rubbing it on my gums and snorting some coke. I don't know. That's not my
You know what? When I listened to that, I thought when I watched that scene, I was like, okay, so he changed out the Adderall for acetaminophen, and if he chews acetaminophen, he knows what they taste like.
No, he poured the Adderall into his acetaminophen.
Okay, but either way, he would have tasted the difference.
How many drugs do you chew?
Only 5 or 6.
Next week, Kris Kerzman tells us all the taste differences in drugs.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to, be a test subject.
I really don't like the dull bitterness of OxyContin.
I've got OxyContin mouth. I think that's an Amy Schumer joke.
Next week is drug pairings. Mac and cheese, that would go great with this slight dose of Adderall.
Yeah.
Just a little sprinkle on top.
We'll get into the old school what bar bitch was it from the Wolf of Wall Street that they're taking. Oh, okay, whatever. Let's stop that rat hole. We do cut back to the Bo Monk thing where Lester's in the bathroom. They go to get the Arby's, and Mr. Wrench and Numbers just show up random as shit and have
the Fargo crew
and have some serious language stuff. And we'll put some links in the show notes. There's somebody who is a translator, and I don't know where your link goes here, Sharpie, but I've read it a few places. There's people translating this, and he's not. It's really American Sign Language, but he's not properly relaying anything he's saying. But it's just hilarious stuff, like what he's saying.
Yeah, pretty much all the sign language is basically hilarious. It's all just sort of a tangent. It's if you don't go look it up, what you're getting from the translator in the show is completely incorrect.
Yeah,
most of the time.
Exactly.
What are their names again? The character names are but they're called. I think that's credited as
Numbers and Wrench, Mr. Numbers and Mr. Wrench is what I've seen. But I don't know if that's. I have no idea. I'd love to see a script. I guess I haven't looked for that yet. But Molly does some sneaky crap with Lester and Lauren and figures some stuff out. So I'm skipping that. I'm sorry because we've got to get to this. Boom. Are we ready?
Just lay it on.
Let's do it. Here it is. Here's the opening scene. And yes, we're staring at a red ice scraper.
Boom.
More religious music, by the way.
What is
by
that?
Monks. That is a red ice. I don't know what this song is.
It's in the closed captioning.
We're staring at the stained glass window of St. Lawrence.
Shazam it.
Yeah.
Shazam it.
I couldn't take my eyes off that painting of Oliver Pratt.
Goddamn.
So beautiful.
You said you were gonna find them.
He raised his price.
$1 million? He killed my damn dog and now he wants $1 million? Eat a turd. It's my response.
Love
And
that.
if it's your
Eat
ex-wife?
a turd.
But, son, you think my ex-wife killed a damn dog?
It wasn't the wife, asshat.
She's mean, but she got a human heart in her chest. She loved the damn animal more than me. No, it's different. Some sick bastard gets off on hurting little things.
Who else knows about the money?
Nobody. Nothing to know.
Must be something. Or he wouldn't be blackmailing you.
Well, nobody knows. Nobody can know. It's impossible.
Meaning,
Yeah, eat those pills. Stavros. Okay, there it is. That's enough for me. They get into a talk about St. Lawrence, who, by the way, is not the patron saint of hard asses. He is the patron saint, however, of chefs and cooks, because, yes, he was grilled to death. And he did say, "Turn me over." And he's a saint. Way to go, buddy. And little known fact, he was also credited with spiriting away during the persecution of Christians, of hiding away with his parents the Holy Grail. And Sharpie, what do you think the Holy Grail is in this scene?
Well, the Holy
Molly
Grail, and we mentioned this in the hot dish, and I mentioned it as a painting or a piece of artwork or whatever. But when I watched it the second time, I realized no, that is the actual red ice scraper. It's like an actual ice scraper.
What is that
on the
ice scraper
mantle there.
from, Sharpie?
And what our thought was that red ice scraper. It's clearly an odd piece to be on a mantle, right? We're watching
it's
Fargo.
not a picture of a saint. It's not the picture of his dog or the bust of his dog. It's not everything else in his house.
not the fire
Everything
hydrant.
else in his house is, stuff of himself, very
Very
narcissistic
egotistical.
and very iconic stuff.
So why the ice
So
scraper?
obviously you start thinking about what could that be, what could that relate to, and then I'm thinking about the movie, and in the movie Fargo, Carl Showalter, the Steve Buscemi character, has the $1 million briefcase, the briefcase with $1 million in it, and he stashes it and buries it in the snow. And when he does that, he just does that out in the country on some random road, buries it in the snow, and he marks the spot, because marking a spot in the snow totally works.
Oh yeah, that shit doesn't melt.
Because that's totally permanent.
Because it's
He marks-
never summer here.
Right.
He marks the location with a red ice scraper. Not just any red ice scraper, the one that looks exactly like the one in Stavros Stavros' office.
Damn.
So we're hypothesizing now that that's the money and the undescribed. Hey, where did your? He always said it came from family money, but we've learned through the storyline that his family has no money. Both his brothers were screw-offs or dead, or I can't remember what. Who cares? But either way, they didn't have money. He came from poor people, which also, by the way, St. Lawrence, after he hid away all the church's things and gave them away and hid the Holy Grail, he presented the people persecuting the Christian church at the time, he presented them with the parishioners and the poor and said, these are the riches of the church.
That's right.
And so they are that. So that's another thing that with St. Lawrence and a lot of this religious theology and stuff that's tying to this. So there's $1 million out there buried in the snow and the ice scraper, and nobody can know. No one would know this. And who's the only
Nobody could
person you would
possibly
probably
know.
ever tell that to? The lady you're married to and boning at the time.
Yeah. You just found a briefcase worth $1 million marked by a red ice scraper.
Yeah.
You had another theory, though, about who actually found it.
So my theory, too, is that so they both hold this dog, King. And so he's the king of the grocery store, supermarkets in the Midwest. His dog's name is King. There's the king being all these references to the king, the Jesus and God, and we haven't even talked about the numerology that we've skipped over here, but
We'll get there.
we'll get there. And so here's the thing: is I think somehow this is we're going deep here. We're like we're off the deep end, and
Jumping the
it's
shark.
like I'm the gunman on the grassy knoll kind of shit. I think the dog found it. I think that's why the dog is held in such revered thing. He and the wife both care for the dog a lot, because I didn't understand why Stavros Milos, Market King, super guy, Stavros Milos. Did I say that right? Okay, good. Why would he be out in a field somewhere, at least as far as Carl Showalter ran, which, by the way, fun movie fact, there wasn't as much snow as they wanted when they filmed that, which is why I watched that and thought, man, if I ran off the side of the road anywhere in the Midwest like that, in the hardcore dead of winter, you would be like hip deep in snow running into a ditch, but there wasn't some snow. Google that. It's out there. But still, so he buried it, and I think the dog found it, personally. That's my crazy belief, is that I think the dog found it, and that's why the dog is such a revered thing in their house.
That's interesting. And that could be, but does it matter? It doesn't really.
I don't know. I don't think it matters. I think it's
makes.
I think it explains the dog's. I think it explains the dog's importance in their life, and why he would walk out, drop to his knees at his dead dog. You know, I mean, he doesn't even he barely makes a comment when he first goes out there about the note. He just looks at the dog, and he's just like, I feel like they owe everything to the dog, which is why there's like a bust of the dog. You know, like anyone who's a pet owner who like has their dog stuffed after it dies, they've obviously got some serious. They hold it in a certain amount of revere for their pet. But
so now I'm thinking, dear dog. So
dear Ndugu?
How did they? Dear Ndugu. No. So maybe the dog was chasing a deer. Maybe, or
I don't think so, because his whole it's the deer. I'm just gonna get up and wander out the door.
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm just saying, there's
there's some fun stuff to play with.
We're slowly uncovering a lot of religious and like connections to things, which is totally not beyond the Coen brothers world, and totally not beyond Noah Hawley to like really and intelligently write to that thing.
Well, I just got to thinking of Barton Fink and John Goodman's character in Barton Fink, and how that film also had some really deep religious and religious philosophical undertones, and a lot of symbolism, and it doesn't have to be done. If anything, I think in Fargo so far, well, I guess probably just with this episode, and it all had to do with the final voiceover by Lorne Malvo, where he tells the story of Moses, but not just any story of Moses, because the story of Moses we have is the deliverer.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that freed the slaves from the Pharaoh, led them into whatever. But he goes pre that story and says, let's go back to the point where Moses was a murderer, and Moses killed an Egyptian for beating one of his countrymen, or one of his people. Which, when you consider the Lesser Nygaard and his wife, Lorne Malvo connection relationship, that has some pretty interesting parallels. And then this also becomes almost more expressly about a morality play, like very much about good and evil, the gray areas between good and evil, and that kind of thing.
So I think this is a really good point for us to take a quick break before we follow up on the Moses business. And Sharpie's going to tell you something that you may or may not know about.
Yes, I am.
Dramatic pause by Matt Charpentier.
Yeah, well, let's get into sponsors quickly. This week's episode is also brought to you in part by Fargo Brewing Company and their Wood Chipper IPA.
I love how you're staring at a can that I can watch you stare at it while you're giving this ad.
Sometimes I forget you can see me.
Put your pants on.
I actually do have some wood chipper. Brought it down as I came down from Fargo to Colorado from Easter holiday. Brought a whole trunk full of wood chipper. Fargo Brewing Company's Wood Chipper IPA is awesome. It's just a perfectly balanced amount of hops. It's velvety. It's a little bit sweet. It's not overly bitter. If you're into IPAs, I would recommend checking it out if you're in the Fargo area or if you're within the distribution area. They should be hitting Minneapolis this summer. Otherwise, they're available in most of North Dakota and quite a bit of Minnesota right now. So Fargo Brewing Company's Wood Chipper IPA, you can check them out at fargobrewing.com. They have a brewery in Fargo. You can check out the tap room there. The hours are on their website. And yeah, it's pretty good. 6.7% alcohol, 70 IBU. That's international bitterness units.
They also
for
have
the layman.
They also have a gorgeous logo, may I say. I really do enjoy the logo. I like the dude. He's got some forearm muscles. And
That's right.
He's holding a sheaf of wheat. He's looking at his bottle of beer. He's just had a hard day's work. He says, I'm going to enjoy this wood chipper right here.
Yeah.
On the plains. It's very flat. The horizon line is completely flat. Which
He's
Way to
proud
go,
of his
Sharpie.
product.
he is proud of his product.
Sharpie, did you design the logo for that? Did you know that, Chris?
Well,
Yeah.
Oh, you did.
I did.
Oh, he's sucking up to you, and you're not even sitting next to him. Jeez.
I mean, I didn't technically design it. We designed it as a company.
oh, that's good.
It was illustrated by Sherwin Schwartzrock.
Yeah.
Nice.
It is. It's a very nice logo. I love it. It's a great logo.
It
So,
I love
um,
signs and symbols.
So Moses, dude.
There we go. Yeah.
Moses. We talked about the 613, and I've been only tracking license plate numbers. But Sharpie has been tracking a few more things. Would you like to inform our listening audience about this?
Okay, well, very quickly, this sort of caught my eye because somebody brought it up on Reddit, actually. The 613 theory, I guess we might call it. So you have the ransom note, and we all know by now it's kind of been beaten around that the ransom note asks for a really odd number of money, a really odd amount of cash, $43,613. So you get the 613 in there. You got Lester Nygaard's address when Gus Grimley's checking the plates on the Ford Taurus that is Lester's car that Lauren Malvo was driving. When Gus Grimley looks up the plate, he realizes it's Lester's car and that Lester's address is 613 Willow Creek Drive in Bemidji, Minnesota. 613 Willow Creek. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So,
Don't worry about it. You
continuing
didn't
on,
you didn't say Lauren Malvo was a deer, so you're doing way better than me, man.
So then, I'm not, a former religious theory major, but there are 613 is the number of mitzvah commandments in the Torah,
Yep.
which I wouldn't have known.
A
Had that person not said that.
mitzvah is a commandment, and if I'm saying this correctly, a mitzvot is a group of commandments.
Okay.
So the mitzvah is like unamas. Mitzvah is plural. So there are 613 single mitzvahs in the Torah.
So we have
If I'm wrong, some
613
Jewish person, please tell us, give us a little thing, because I will admit, did not cover a lot of Jewish or rabbinic tradition. I did lots of Christian theology and Buddhism. So, sorry, go ahead.
So we have 613 as being sort of a common number that's showing up throughout the season. With the commandments, that's sort of, the tie to Judaism, which sort of brings us to the Moses, and kind of wraps up the ending really nicely.
Yeah.
So it's not a specific reference to Moses, but it is at least a tie-in to Judaism. And we have the very final scene with Stavros Milos Stavros taking a shower, hopped up on Adderall. The shower water seems to turn into a blood. And I was wondering if this was actually happening at the time. Like, is this really
I did too.
happening,
I was like,
this
or is he hallucinating?
No, it's,
right, because of all the drugs he's been chewing down.
But Lauren Malvo has those tanks of pig's
Yeah,
blood.
no, that's what we...
Okay.
But then,
sorry.
it's confirmed later on that it was definitely of Malvo's, practice.
So where would he have gotten that, do you suppose?
Oh, come
The
on.
pig's blood. I'm asking that rhetorically.
He's like all red from Shawshank Redemption. He's a man who knows how to get things. He evidently knows how to find a guy who has a huge pharmaceutical company, zombie backpacks, and clean piss in the back of a van that he just pops open in the open street to sell you for your 300-pound 9-year-old who can't finish a sentence. Sorry, go ahead, Sharpie.
Or he
it is a great line.
siphoned it off
Chris brought that up.
butcher floor that's in the back of Stavros Milos Stavros' office.
Ooh, yeah, maybe he got that there.
What does I just want to dial back here a second because again, since this is very explicitly taking us down this not just the Bible but the
Torah.
The Torah and down
Buddhism.
Religious, the religious symbology at the very
Okay,
least.
sorry, it is pig's blood. I'm just looking through it's CH something butcher shop, pig's blood, 5 gallons in the back. I'm freeze framing here, so
$17.
$17.50 it looks
I'm
like.
sure you just went to the butcher shop and bought it. You can buy blood. Yeah. You can just make blood sausage.
Okay. All right. So the one point I didn't want to make.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Malvo asks Milos Stavros Milos if he is a Greek Orthodox. And what was Milos Stavros Milos's answer? It was something to the effect of,
"Why? Because I'm Greek?"
Right, but then he says, "Well, me and God, okay, it's like when you." What does he compare it to? I forget.
I don't.
But he compares it to something like, but he doesn't really come out and say what his relationship to God is.
No, he doesn't.
He dances around it slightly.
As most Midwesterners do.
Yeah, but the way he dances around it, it's you know what, you guys totally have me looking for like meaning in every little thing now. And before this was a show I just enjoyed. Now I'm turning into an internet person about it.
Now we've ruined you.
Now I'm an internet person.
You'll be up till all hours of the night here, and we still didn't even talk about
what is that thing?
That's a bear or a beaver trap. By the way, what the fuck happened in Sioux Falls? There's so many things we can't even talk about. I think this episode was so full that we would have to make this such a long episode that you guys.
I told you, man.
Probably think
this episode was phenomenal.
Yeah,
the line about the bourbon and the milkshakes.
The bourbon, the milkshakes, the Molly like getting all motherly, and they're gonna make their own Three's Company episode. Like mom's a
the podcast
sheriff,
could literally be 2
cop,
hours long, but we don't want to do that to people.
No. Okay, so pig's blood. Yeah, I mean you could get into the whole Passover thing with. Jesus, there's so many blood things in the Bible. I don't even know what to tell you about that.
Blood's all over.
Yeah, and on top of it, it's pig's blood. That's kind of bad in some ways, but. I don't know. Where were you, Sharpie? I don't even remember. I'm just like...
I think you were talking about the 613, and that's a fun rabbit hole. So right now Bill's got a list of the 613.
And it's just a huge chunk of like Leviticus, Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like literally like,
But they're old. It's Old Testament.
Shomer fucking Shabbos.
Shomer Shabbos. It's Old Testament shit. Like, and it's like...
Oh, yeah. There's no like New Age Jesus loves you shit going on here.
Not to eat the fats of certain animals. I got to think there's got to be some...
Not to eat blood.
613 of those. There's got to be some of those that have to be...
It's pretty serious stuff. Oh, by the way, there is a thing, Sharpie, that I don't know if you knew about this, but I don't remember if it was in one of the things I read or if it was in... I'm losing track now, but there was also somebody who had 613 tassels on their jacket, and I keep thinking, why does Wrench and Numbers guy, one of the deaf guy, have the tassels? And I'm like, he's got tassels and sideburns, and now I'm thinking about like traditional Jews who keep the curls in their hair and they don't trim the edges.
I was going to say, he's a time traveler?
No,
from the 70s?
No, I think the tassels have to do with, I don't know. You need to read Living Biblically by A.J. Jacobs I can't remember. You should look it up. It's a really fun book. Anyway, so there's the mitzvah thing, and I don't know. And now we're just derailed. We're spiraling. This is kind of the tail end of our conspiracy theory. We don't have a Warren Commission. We don't have anything to stop us. We're just.
But these are okay. So this is the third episode. Before we started recording, Bill and I were talking about some of the early criticism of the show.
Sure.
And critics were saying they got to see 4 episodes. And they saw these 4 episodes, and they had all these superlatives that they were heaping on Billy Bob Thornton for his role as Lorne Malvo, but then also just talking about how much better and better the show gets as it goes on.
Yes.
And so we're 75% of the way through what all those people saw.
So
And
we're missing
I think we're starting,
episode, yeah.
Well, and I think we're starting to see it. So all these things are signposts, and I think a lot of these will probably end up being red herrings, right? But I think there's no coincidences. I think Noah Hawley and any TV writer worth their salt in the 21st century has to realize that if people see an image, if they glom onto an idea or something, that they're going to follow it down a rabbit hole, and that they might be able to delineate some sort of hypertextual knowledge from it. There's some semiotics for you, and that only enhances the viewing of it, which is why you put symbols into a work of fiction like this. That's why you play around with these things, and you're like, oh yeah, let's put a deer here or something. And I think that's only going to enrich our viewing of the show going forward, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too. Is like I can't remember now what I said earlier. I can't remember what I said 10 seconds ago. Who am I kidding? I'm still to the point
Lauren
where
Melville is a deer.
I'm Lauren Melville is a deer.
That'll be the next shirt for tag.
I'm making that shirt.
Lauren Melville is a deer.
I just think that I'm kind of ready to move away. I'm ready to make commentary because we're from here, so we can talk about fun things that are from here, what people would do. The Lester's at Beaumont's agency, and the lady's like, "Oh, did you get my soup?" And it's like that's for real. People are sick or somebody dies. People literally deliver you soup and hot dishes and food as just like a Midwestern, and it's always the same thing, which is funny. It's like, somebody just died, so let me give you like the lowest common denominator of cheap food I can put together.
Here's some scalloped potatoes.
Yeah, let me show you how much I care by giving you shit.
Have you guys talked about the phenomenon of funeral hot dish? Which one? Are you about to say which one?
Well, I was going to say, or funeral sandwiches. We kind of did touch on that.
Okay, yeah,
at one
the
point.
ham and butter
on
little buns.
The deviled ham, or
Right.
basically anything that looks like it's been whipped with meat in it. Don't eat it. If it's just a ham and something on a bun, you're going to eat it and hold on tight, because the ladies in the church put so much fucking butter on it that your ham on the first bite is liable to just shoot out the other side, because there is at least a quarter inch
Well,
of
that's
butter.
what they call a greased pig, right?
Exactly. Like, we could do a whole episode on like crap you eat in church basements after funerals.
Pretty much everything is either 50% butter or 50% mayonnaise.
Or sometimes,
Yeah,
if you get
that's a
crazy, you'll mix them together and you'll be like, "Oh, look, I made a sauce."
There's, I wasn't familiar with this. It was for a funeral I went to a few months ago, and my sister said, "Oh, they're going to be having funeral hot dish." I was like, "Okay, well, I know what hot dish is, but
And
what's
what a
funeral
funeral is.
hot dish?" And I guess funeral hot dish, and you guys have had it. It's overcooked noodles. First off, they got to be apparently overcooked.
Well, anything you bake in the
Tomatoes.
oven that long is going to get
Yeah, tomatoes, ground beef, 0 spices apparently, no salt whatsoever.
well,
I think that's
Bob's been
basically
watching his blood
Okay,
pressure.
so that's what we call goulash.
Yeah, I think I've heard it called goulash before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
goulash
what my
is-
family calls
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
It's basically just tomato sauce, tomato soup,
Or a can of
hamburger,
tomato
and
juice.
macaroni.
Can of tomato juice.
totally.
Guess what's in my cupboard right now? A 6-pack of tomato juice. Do we drink it? No, we're not Don Draper on Sunday. It was because my wife made this hot dish recipe for my mother, and she'll never hear this show, so I'm okay. And I love it. It's great, but it's like literally, it's like elbow macaroni, tomato sauce, beef, and like a can of mixed vegetables, and then you crumple potato chips on the top.
Oh my
man.
god, I've got a church basement church lady cookbook from St. Nicholas Catholic Church in Garrison, North Dakota.
Oh, I've heard of this cookbook.
Have you? What?
Yes.
No way.
Yes.
But everything has 5 ingredients.
Yes,
They all come
I
out
know.
of a can. It's brilliant.
So
Where do
anyway,
you
and
think
we're also
Bill's
okay.
wife got that recipe from?
We got to bring this back here because we got to wrap this up. So also one of the most awesome slow motion scenes ever on TV for me in the last few weeks. Lester just which one makes the biggest hole? Just blowing holes and shit. Which is funny because he shoots the gun, but yet he pockets a taser. Okay,
Right.
Because really, when I don't know. Maybe he's not going to murder his brother. And by the way, we also got to touch on our hashtag Who Dead Next. I
Who Dead
think
Next?
I got this one right, didn't I? Didn't I claim nobody dies? So that's
I
our
don't know.
thing.
We'll have to review the tape.
Yeah, I think I said last week nobody dies. So we have this thing. What we do is we say who's going to die next, and one week I said somebody we don't know. But
It's
so
kind of
technically somebody did
technicality.
die this
Yeah,
week because
yeah.
we recapped a death. But
Well, and the dog died.
oh,
You guys don't.
Oh.
You're not
stand
friends with
corrected.
any vegans,
You did
are
not
you?
predict
I
the
stand.
king.
Oh, PETA in the house. So
let's quickly wrap up the episode. So it ends with this monologue of Lorne Malvo doing a voiceover, and he's telling the story of Moses. We see Wrench and what is it?
Numbers.
numbers, and
Numbers.
they're
In a
sitting
fish
in
house.
they're sitting in an ice house, and I'm like,
Yeah,
are they
sitting
just
in an ice
monitoring
house.
the guy's body they shoved in there now? Is that what they're doing,
Or they just live in there.
or that's just where they're hiding out?
They're probably just hiding out.
Yeah.
And then we see Stavros, Milos, Stavros.
Can we play
Taking a
this? Can we
shower.
play this scene?
Well,
the water
it's
turns
all
to
music
blood.
at the end, remember?
Yeah, I
or it's
suppose.
some
Yeah, that's a
dialogue.
Good point.
We do have there is the monologue. We could listen to that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can.
But-
I'm just kind of guessing here. Okay, here's Lester shooting.
Brink, and when she saw the basket in the sedges, she sent one of her maids for it.
Watching Lester shoot a gun
And when
to
it
a
was
religious
brought,
thing
she
is just
opened
great.
it and saw within an infant crying. And having compassion on it, she said, "This is one of the babes of the Hebrews." And she adopted him for a son and called him Moses, saying, "Because I took him out of the water." One day after Moses had grown up, he went out among his people and saw their affliction. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, his brethren. Looking this way and that way, and seeing no people, Moses slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
Blood.
Damn.
Blood everywhere.
And he doesn't notice right away.
Oh no!
And
he
he
puts
tastes
sticks his
it.
tongue
Oh,
out.
he tastes it. Yeah, he tastes
Did
it.
you just say tastes it?
He tases it.
Fucking the gibbers.
Oh god.
That was so Gollum of you.
Oh, and he tastes it.
And
he tastes it. The precious.
Oh god, we're nerds.
So he's telling the story of Moses slaying the Egyptian. He stops before he goes into later in the story when Moses used his staff to turn the Nile into blood.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Which is obviously a reference to what just happened. He basically turned Stavros Stavros' shower.
I love the fact that
into-
we've done this because
Yeah.
we
can't. I
Returns
can't
the
be.
water into
we
Yeah,
couldn't
it's always
remember
gotta be
because I think
Stavros,
Milos Stavros sounds like a great name, but then Stavros Milos is also a great name.
It goes
Stavros
either way.
Milos Stavros.
That's why it's both.
Yes.
But it okay. So the the plague in the Bible in the Moses story is it rains blood, does it not? Or does it rain?
No, it's like the meteor, the fire. I thought, God, there's so many.
But what-
you know
what-
what? Here's the deal. There's a lot of bad shit that happens to people in the Bible.
Yeah.
Until
What's the
Jesus,
body
until
count in that
Jesus
thing?
shows up and is like, "Let me show you how to fish." Hey,
There
maybe
is a
they're
published
wrong and
body
you're
count in
maybe
the
they're
Bible.
wrong
It
and
is-
you're right.
It is ridiculous.
Then it takes a mighty twist at the at Revelations. What a twist! Another twist.
Oh no.
Anyway.
Gosh. So how do we put a bow on this one, Sharpie? Let's put a bow on it. So much for your summation speech of your 613
All I'm
ice
saying
scraper
is
theory.
that there seems to be significance in the number 613, 613. It's in the ransom note. It's in Lester's address. It's a number of commandments in the Torah, which, everything seems to be like tying back to religion. I think we should just keep an eye on it and just kind of have fun with it.
Yeah.
That's all, basically. There's no way to say it's going to lead to this. It's just saying that this is clearly a common theme, underlying theme throughout the plot.
Ooh, Proverbs 30:28. The spider taketh hold with her hands and is in king's places.
Oh.
Did you just
What?
pull that out of your ass?
Holy shit.
No, I googled it.
What are you doing?
Go
over
back
there?
to that.
What
Go
did
back
you
to that.
Google to get that?
I just did. I
Go
just
right
closed the
under there.
window.
You're
Oh God, we can't do.
Raise
No,
it-
we gotta
raise
wrap
the
it up.
tabs.
Oh,
Damn it.
Fuck
Okay,
wrapping it
fine.
up. You were just onto something. People will listen. They can turn it off if they want to turn it off.
I did. I googled spider Bible, and now I can't find the same thing. What do you this?
Yes.
Oh, really? Look at this. I'm learning.
I just schooled you on some Chrome, dude.
I don't use Chrome except for like this show. That's the only time I use Chrome.
Whatever.
I don't know what you want me to do with this. It's a lot of reverse text on a black page, which, by the way, is
it's
fucking horrid.
It's a crazy preacher. Look at that dude up at the pastor.
I know,
Pastor
Jack Hiles. Don't go read this. He's the loyal pastor of First Baptist
the spider
Church of Hammond.
taketh hold with her hands and in king's places. Oh, I don't know.
They're gonna crawl out of somebody's neck. So hey, okay, we got to cover this. So who dead next? Sharpie, who do you think is gonna die in the next episode?
The next episode, I have not been right yet, but body count has come down a little bit.
Well, everything's come down from 4. Right? The first episode, 4 dead people
because of Semenko, the fire hydrant's comments in the office.
Can I make a Semenko comment real quick?
Sure.
Hold that thought. Sometimes the way Semenko talks with Stavros, Milos, Stavros, I feel like they're like the adult version of the Hess children.
Sam
Hess's kids. Because
exactly.
And it's like he's gotten a little smarter, and he's like, yeah, that would never like dipshit, or what does he call him? I don't know.
Yeah, dipshit.
Asshat. No talent,
he just
ass clown.
Repeats whatever his master has said.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry. That was my thing.
Yeah,
anyway,
I had that same thought. So I'm going to go with Semenko, the fire hydrant.
Chris, do you have any theories on who could
dead
be
next?
Who dead next?
And the options, you can also say no one.
Or I'm gonna go with and I'm just picking a name out of the hat here. Glenn Howerton's character, the trainer.
You think Chump is dying?
I think Chump will go down. I'm just to play along. I probably
think Chump's got some legs right now.
I'm going to continue streak of nobody dies.
Pussy.
Except for
I'm
dogs.
not being a pussy. I know that we still have to introduce Key and Peele's characters. I think the fire hydrant's a great one, but okay, if somebody dies, it's going to be the fire hydrant.
Gotta be.
Because he's on the prod.
Fire hydrant be dead next.
He's a hot fire hydrant. Cap that thing. So there you have it, folks. Thanks so much. We got to wrap this up. Thanks so much to Kris Kerzman for coming on the show.
Chris. Oh, thank you guys.
Thanks for listening to our crazy conspiracy theories this week. And if we can get this worked out next week, I believe we're going to have the gals from the blog FX Fargo, who also have at FX Fargo on Twitter. We're going to try to work that out. We'll see what happens. If not, I don't know what we're going to do. And we're also in the process of talking to somebody else to be on the show, too, that's actually on the TV show. So much to come. Keep your eye out for 613. Keep your eye out for deer. And read
fish
your fish and spiders, and read your Bible and your Torah and what the Buddha knows. And
do your homework.
The Bhagavad Gita.
Joseph Campbell.
Just keep up, because this shit's going on. And Sharpie, until next time, my friend.
Until next time.
Stay thirsty, my friend.